And thank you for joining us on air and streaming on this primary election night in Minnesota and Wisconsin. I'm Kevin Holmes.
And I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. Results are rolling into the newsroom as we speak, and some very closely watched races. You can see those live results scrolling at the bottom of your screen now.
We are watching it all. We have crews spread out across the metro, bringing us live team coverage of the big races. We begin with the race for Minnesota governor. Right now, House Speaker Lisa Demuth leading the Republican bid with 45% of the votes. This is with nearly half of the precincts reporting so far. She's ahead of businessman Kendall Qualls and MyPillow founder Mike Lindell. The winner will take on Amy Klobuchar, who won the DFL nomination in a landslide as expected. The AP calling that very, very early in the night. Raya Katene spoke with Klobuchar and Demuth tonight and starts our team coverage live from St. Paul. Raya.
Well, Kevin, the energy here is high tonight. Just minutes ago, this patio in St. Paul erupted into chants and cheers and applause as those election results continue pouring in, and we're learning a little bit more about who's leading the Republicans who are vying to become Minnesota governor. And right now, House Speaker Lisa Demuth is in the lead when it comes to this primary. This has been a pretty fierce battle and competition among Republicans. You know, Demuth has been facing businessman Kendall Qualls, as you said, as well as MyPillow founder Mike Lindell. Demuth does remain in the lead tonight despite not having the endorsement of the state Republican Party or the endorsement of President Trump. Both of those actually went to her competitors. But Demuth does have the most funding in this race and says her experience in the state legislature would help her take on what she calls some major issues in the state, including fraud, affordability, and education. Now, on the other side of the political aisle, it is no surprise tonight that Amy Klobuchar did secure that Democratic nomination for governor. I did ask Demuth tonight how she would be able to beat such a big Minnesota political figure like Klobuchar in the midterms this fall, especially seeing that it's been so many years since a Republican won a statewide office. Here's what she had to say, and after that, we'll also hear from Klobuchar.
I've had the opportunity of serving as Speaker of the House for the last 2 years, and I've been in the legislature for 4 terms. That experience and what I have learned in that process has taught me much about how our government operates, where we need to make changes, specifically fraud, putting extra internal controls, and protecting and respecting Minnesota taxpayer dollars. But I have also learned to work across the aisle in an exactly tied House. That has been what we've done.
In Minnesota, trust is not given, it's earned. That trust comes with an expectation, which is results. Results that you can see and feel in your life. Results in making life more affordable, making our government work, and getting rid of the fraud.
Right now, we are seeing that Demuth is sitting at about 45% of votes, with Lindell in second place at 31%. Of course, we'll be here until those results are solidified, as well as the rest of the folks here who are cheering on Demuth tonight in St. Paul. Back to you.
All right, we'll bring those results to you as soon as they become available. Thank you, Raya. Appreciate it. The other race with a ton of eyes on it tonight is the incredibly tight contest for the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate. That race highlighting the deep divide between moderates and progressives in the Democratic Party. Right now, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan leading over Congresswoman Angie Craig. This is about 51% of precincts reporting right now, and you can see she's winning 55% to 44%. On the Republican side, the Associated Press calling the race for former sports broadcaster Michelle Tafoya just over an hour ago. Our Jennifer Hoff and Danny Spiewak following the developments from those 2 races. We're going to start with Danny in Minneapolis with the Democratic showdown. Danny?
Well, I've been to both watch parties tonight, and the vibes are very different. At Congresswoman Angie Craig's party in St. Paul, the conversations I heard in the room were, well, it's early. There's still a lot of results to come in. But here in Minneapolis, the Flanagan campaign telling us in the last few minutes that they are extremely optimistic about the results. You hear that from most campaigns on election night, but in these early results, it is supporting their reasoning for being optimistic. You're looking at places like Anoka County with most of the precincts in. That's a suburban, exurban county that Flanagan won big by double digits already. We're starting to see results come in from Ramsey County. We see her up by 20 or 30 points with a third of precincts reporting there. So we're going to have to see what happens in Hennepin County, in other urban areas of the state. But the Flanagan campaign looking good as she's the progressive candidate in this race, endorsed by Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. There's a large crowd here at First Avenue tonight with a lot of sitting state lawmakers, a lot of other people that are just here cheering every time they see that she's up by double digits in the early results as the flash across the screen. So again, we're still waiting for a lot of results to come in, but this is a nationally watched race because it really is a litmus test for the Democratic Party about do they want another progressive candidate like we saw in Michigan's Senate primary, or were they looking for more of an established member of Congress such as Angie Craig running for the Senate seat here. So we'll just have to see how the night shakes out. But again, the Flanagan campaign saying they're extremely optimistic about what they're seeing. Back to you.
Makes a big difference come the general election in November, so we are following this closely as well. Thanks, Danny. Jennifer Hoff is in Edina at the GOP headquarters. And Jennifer, you just spoke with Michelle Tafoya about her win tonight.
That's right, Rena. We talked to Tafoya within just the last 15 minutes as she is celebrating tonight, but at an event closed to the press, which is why we are at the state's GOP headquarters here in Edina. And she was very adamant and reiterated that Minnesotans are ready for a change, ready for a new direction, and that she wants to bring common sense back to Washington. She's going to fight fraud and ultimately win, she said, in November. And as you mentioned, the Associated Press calling this race just before 9 o'clock tonight, with Tafoya having nearly 51% of the vote. And really, this is what's big too. It's a historic moment because it's the first time that the party's endorsed candidate didn't win the nomination. Tafoya running on name recognition and more resources than the former SEAL, Adam Schwarzy, who in fact had the party's endorsement. But now as Tafoya looks ahead, here's what she said about encouraging people to join her campaign and beat either Flanagan or Craig in the fall, which would also be a first for the Republicans in more than 2 decades in the U.S. Senate.
There's a home for you with us. We're running for all of Minnesota. We're not just running for our name or the party. We're running for Minnesota to get things back on track. So we'd like to open the tent to anyone who wants to come on in.
Tafoya saying tonight and in the campaign that she's run so far is really resonating with Minnesotans, and as you heard, inviting folks to join in that as we look ahead now to fall, saying that she is determined to really send these career politicians, as she called them, home, send them home rather, and that the real work begins tomorrow. And the state's GOP chair really echoing that in a statement tonight, calling Tafoya tough, and that she is the one that is really going to unite this party as now we all look ahead to November. Back to you.
And we do have some political analysts that are coming up. They're going to talk about her chances in November. Jennifer, thank you.
Chris Harevsky over at the live desk, heading over to the governor's race in Wisconsin. The Democratic primary is neck and neck right now. It is one the nation is zeroing in on. Take a look at these results. So you have Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley with he's a 0.1% lead over State Representative Francesca Hong right now. About 500,000 votes between them, and about 400 votes right now as I speak is the difference between Crowley and Hong. Hong's a Democratic socialist and a state representative out of Madison. She was the front runner in the polls heading into tonight. But David Crowley, who dropped out of this race in July, but later rejoined with the backing of current Governor Tony Evers, he is now in the lead, like I said, by 400 votes out of 500,000. Hong is only leading in about 12 to 15 counties out of 72 right now. But again, the race is as tight as it gets with more than 3/4. We are 82% of the votes in right now. U.S. Representative Tom Tiffany, backed by President Trump, easily won the Republican primary with 95% of the vote. Who he will face in November has yet to be decided. We're going to stand by and watch as the votes come in. Rena?
All right, thank you, Chris. And we do have more primary coverage on the way in 5 minutes. We're breaking down the race for Congressional District 2, the seat Angie Craig left vacant to run for Senate. Plus, political analysts Jeff Hayden and Priya Samsudar are going to join us with their thoughts.